Good morning. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Stony Brook. My name is Wendy Engelhardt, and I am privileged to serve as your worship associate this morning. I offer a special welcome to any of you who are visiting us or are here for the first time. We are so glad you're here, and we look forward to getting to know you better. Please plan to stay following the service and join us as our guest for coffee hour, where you'll find lots of friendly folks to answer any questions you may have for us or about us. And for those of you online, please return to our website after the service and click the link for small group chats. There you will easily find folks who can give you more information about our congregation and answer any questions you may have. Since our services vary each week, we hope that you'll return often to really get to know us as a community of faith. Unitarian Universalism as a living tradition is committed to freedom of belief and orientated towards inclusion, interdependence, and justice. You can find additional information about the principles we strive to live by on our webpage. We are a congregation of seekers who have come from a variety of faith traditions, and we welcome those of all ages, abilities, and identities who are searching for a spiritual home. If you are attending this service virtually, please watch the chat for the order of service and a few other important links during the service, especially the visitors form and the feedback form. We would love to hear from you. Here are some important announcements. As part of our interim process, the transition team is organizing cottage meetings, which will give us a chance to meet with Pastor Madeline in small groups. We have the first few scheduled already. Please see Ellen Bartley in the back of the sanctuary after the service today for more information and to reserve your spot. The next announcement is from the Pandemic Response Team. Following today's service, we will have a coffee hour outside on the side deck. This space is for those who are comfortable having their masks off and where food and drink are available. There will also be a space outside for conversation only on the back deck for those who are more comfortable with keeping their masks on. There are signs indicating where these areas are located. Finally, with me on the chancel this morning is our visiting minister, the Reverend Jennifer Brower. She comes to us retired from her 20-year ministry with the UU congregation at Shelter Rock this past June and is now their minister emerita. Reverend Brower has recently launched a private coaching practice working with the bereaved and others who are engaged in one of life's transitions. She is a native of Manhattan, a graduate of Union Theological Seminary, and the mom to a teen son who is deep in the college application process. Now, let us enter in the sacred space of worship with the sounding of the bell. Please remain peacefully silent until the sound of the bell can no longer be heard.
We invite you to join us in the responsive call to worship, which is printed in your order of service. Here in this sacred space and connected through our electronic devices, we are gathered together, people of different ages and life stages.
We come together in hope.
We greet each other warmly with our voices, our smiles, and our waves.
We come together in peace.
We acknowledge our interdependence and our unity.
We come together in harmony.
We share our growth and our aspirations.
We come together in wonder.
We share our losses and our disappointments.
We come together in sorrow.
We share our concern and our compassion.
We come together in love.
We come to this time and place bringing our doubts and our faith.
We come together as seekers.
For all of these reasons and more,
We come together in worship. I have asked Gia Anderson and Sawyer Engelhardt, two members of the UUFSB youth group, to light our chalice this morning. If you are joining us from home, I invite you to light your own chalice or candle. We now kindle the flame of our chalice, reflecting upon the words of Sean Trapp, entitled, "A Fire in the Universe." Thanks. Our chalice reminds us that the fire within ourselves is the same fire that illuminates the universe. It is our reminder that all is connected, even though the space of the void is vast, and our experience here is but a blip in the cosmic timeline. This flame is our promise that in our smallness and our short time on earth, that we live intently and deeply with love for one another, with honesty and integrity, to be guided by rational thought and critical thinking, and with a shared sense of responsibility. For as the late astronomer Carl Sagan reminded us, this pale blue dot is the only home we've ever known. Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing hymn 1010 in your teal hymnal, "We Give Thanks." lovely. Today's reading is by Bob Holmes, founder and editor of the online community and blog Contemplative Monk, for which he is also the resident singer, photographer, and muse. Growing up in the Appalachian Mountains, he'll tell you his native blood makes him feel 10,000 years deep when he sets foot there. After a wide variety of interior travels, ask him which religions and denominations he hasn't tried, he has landed in Florida, where he continues to write and reflect. This is Breathscapes by Mr. Bob Holmes. When the east wind breathes into your soul and the morning sun warms your face, pause in the solitude, sink into the stillness, expanding with every breath, savoring as things settle, and clear in still clarity. Perceive with childlike wonder the breath of dawn, the light dancing in your heart, to heal you, to hold you, and to make you whole. Each Sunday, we share our plate offerings with an organization that does work in the world aligned with our principles. This month's Share the Plate organization is Hands Across Long Island, also known as HALI. This is a grassroots, peer-run mental health nonprofit organization founded in 1988. HALI has grown to provide a multitude of advocacy and support services for people on Long Island. It was instrumental in the formation of the first independent mental health housing programs in our region, and currently offers supporting housing to over 100 people through Nassau and Suffolk counties. Other services include a peer recovery center, community re-entry for incarcerated individuals, and the homeless outreach services, including a mobile shower unit. They have recently initiated an anti-stigma project which addresses disparities that people with a serious mental illness diagnosis may face in the physical healthcare system, and will be working with Stony Brook University by placing peers in the emergency room and inpatient settings. You may make your gifts in the plate or online. For those online, the link to donate is in your chat box. The offering will now be gratefully received.
There's a little wheel a-turning in my heart. There's a little wheel a-turning in my heart. In my heart, in my heart. There's a little wheel a-turning in my heart. There's a little song singing in my heart. There's a little song singing in my heart. In my heart, in my heart. There's a little song singing in my heart. There's a little bell ringing in my heart. There's a little bell ringing in my heart. In my heart, in my heart. There's a little bell ringing in my heart. There's a little drum beating in my heart. There's a little drum beating in my heart. in my heart, in my heart, there's a little drum beating in my heart. There's a little wheel a-turning in my heart. There's a little wheel a-turning in my heart. In my heart, in my heart. There's a little wheel a-turning in my heart.
I invite you all to join in the words of dedication of the offering, which are printed in your order of service. And I hope you at home have these as well, because you are certainly part of this work and action. To the work of our faith,
which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Amen.
All righty. When I was a kid, my brother David liked to watch Evel Knievel. And what my older brother did, I did too. David is 7 years older than I am, which is far enough apart to actually like each other and enjoy hanging out together. It worked for us. And as I was driving today, I was thinking about those days of watching Evel Knievel together, and I remember them always being Sunday afternoons. It's sort of like Wide World of Sports or, you know, Animal Kingdom or whatever. It's the Sunday afternoons on the floor, staring at the big TV, which was, you know, this deep in those days. You know, somebody had to get up and change the channel. You know, gleefully anticipating what was coming next and being everything being described so colorfully by the commentators who were, you know, detailing every single second, you know. And Evel's taken a deep breath. Jim, what do you think that means? You know, it was exciting. Every moment of it was wonderful. You know, Evel Knievel was like no other. He was considered good-looking and rough around the edges, kind of like a blend of G.I. Joe and Malibu Ken, you know? He was flashy in his white jumpsuit and his cape. He was like the motorcycle Elvis, you know? On his motorcycle, he jumped cars and canyons and through hoops of fire. And even after all these many decades, he still holds the record for jumping the most number of buses on a motorcycle. He jumped 14. See, it is a wow, right? And if it isn't like abundantly clear and wasn't clear then by that stunt and all the others where he broke every bone in his body multiple times, the man was really completely unhinged in some way. But he was an amazing showman and self-promoter, and God, did he know how to draw a crowd. He often said that kids wanted to be like him, and men wanted to be him, and women wanted to be with him. He was a man of his time, there is no question. Colorful and egomaniacal, to be sure, but the world wanted the likes of him as much as he wanted fame. We wanted Evel Knievel, and that was noisy. Let's try to keep that from happening again. But there is another Evel Knievel quote that, when I read it, made me feel a certain affinity for this risk-taking, body-busting braggart of a showman. When asked why he repeatedly took his life into his own hands, doing these terrifying and often just ridiculously unsuccessful jumps on his motorcycle or in a car, he said, "I love the feeling of the fresh air on my face and the wind blowing through my hair." Say what? That is totally nuts. And it makes perfect sense in some way. Now, while it's true that I don't know most of you, I know some of you, I don't know most of you, I don't know you well, those of you that I know, I'm still willing to bet, were I a betting kind of minister, that none of us here have taken the risks Evel Knievel took. Who's jumped a bus on a motorcycle? Raise your hand. But lots of us here share the need to feel the fresh air on our face and the wind blowing through our hair or over our scalp, depending on who we are. We drive with the windows down and buy convertibles because of it. Just this morning, as I was on my way here, I turned out onto my street and there was this bright, shiny, brand new blue convertible coming up the street with the top going down as the woman was driving by, and I thought, oh, there it is. There's the impulse. And when I was in the city the other day, I noticed on the subway platform as the subway came roaring into the station, everybody sort of breathed into that gust of air that comes along with the train, which is particularly spectacular in August. No matter how hot the air is, if you're a subway rider, you're just glad for the air to be moving. And the forced air pushed through an MRI machine. Have you had an MRI? Thank God for the forced air. Let's give thanks for that. That's a marvel of technology. Whoever thought of that was a brilliant person. We give thanks for that breeze through that machine that helps us to stay grounded as the jackhammers pound around some part of our body. We like the feel of the air moving across our face and through our hair and over our skin. So much so that the Dutch have a practice of this. I read about it just the other day in the paper. A friend sent me this article. It's a Dutch word which I'm never going to try to pronounce. It has way too many vowels all in a row. It begins with a U. You can look it up yourselves. But it's the practice known as outblowing, which is spending time in the wind to clear your mind, to clear your head. So though we're not about to start jumping buses on a motorcycle, there is nothing like the feeling of wind and the breeze. It is essential, that wind, and delightful. The movement of air is what allows us to speak and to sing and to create music. It is ubiquitous and big and scary and comforting and thrilling. It is all of those things and wonderful, and could motivate one to do all sorts of things. When I read that Evel Knievel quote about why he did what he did, I was reminded of something I read in a new mother's guide, a new parent's guide, though I'm sure it was written for mothers and not parents. Before my son was born, this kid who's deeply steeped in the college application process, I'm sorry, Rob, I moved the mic and you jumped because I hurt you. Oh, cover your ears. The book spoke about how when a child is born, everything is new, of course, which we know, but we don't know, and I had to read it in a book, that everything is entirely new. And the very first of those experiences that the author mentioned was the feeling of air moving across the skin. The movement of the air on our bodies and into us as we take our first breath are our very first sensations. How cool is that? The feeling of the air and the wind and our breath are our first experiences of life. They are there at the beginning. In the Hebrew Bible, the wind is often mentioned as a sacred element. In the first chapter of Genesis, in the first story of creation, in describing the birth of the world, the story goes this way. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was without form or shape, with darkness over the abyss, and a mighty wind swept over the waters. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. But before those well-known words about light, we have the mighty wind, which in Hebrew is the Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of the Most High. A mighty wind, the Spirit of the Most High, the force of creation, moves across the deep and over the waters. The wind is what's there at the very beginning. It's there before the light, before the dome of the sky, before the stars are brought into being, before the land, before the plants, before the humans. Many, many years ago, I read a story that described how when a person dies, nature would respond to this shift in the force of life by kicking up a wind and creating rain and thunder and lightning. Now, of course, in my 20 years as the Minister for Pastoral Care with Shelter Rock, I was with lots and lots of folks when they died, and lots of folks died on sunny days. So I know it doesn't happen as described in that book, but it is so poetic. And when a loved one dies, it feels like all of that should happen, that nature should revolt and complain and lament with us. It feels like the whole mighty universe should rock and roll and cry out, and the wind should whip up and howl and swirl. We want nature to grieve with us when part of creation, human or otherwise, dies. If the feeling of air over our skin is one of our first sensations, then it seems only fitting that a gusty wind be there at the end. It seems only fitting. Peter? It's all yours. Thank you so much for that. The wind that moves over the waters in the book of Genesis is, as I said, the Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of God, the Spirit of the Most High. The same word, Ruach, used later in the book of Genesis, is used to describe the animating force that is breathed into the human being by the Creator. Then the Most High formed the human of dust from the ground, and the Most High breathed into the human's nostrils the Ruach, breath of life, and the human became a living creature. The breath of life, the Ruach, in which the Greek translation is the word pneuma, and in Latin spiritus. The breath of life, the Ruach and the pneuma, the spiritus, is the animating force that brings us into being. And this word appears hundreds of times throughout the Hebrew and Christian Bibles. Like the Hebrew Ruach, the Greek pneuma, and the Latin spiritus, in Taoist philosophy and healing, all forms of life are animated by an essential force. In Taoism, it's the qi. Qi, like the other words, means breath and air. Just as the Ruach and the pneuma and spiritus are described, the qi is the energy within all living beings. It is silent, invisible, formless, yet it permeates all living beings. As the author Daniel Reed states, qi is to the living being what electricity is to the computer. Without it, all functions grind to a halt. So communicated through different words and different languages and found in different religions and philosophies, there is the animating wind, the breath of life, the vital force at our core. Indeed, so universal are the references to the breath of life or the spirit that many say that this spiritual center is what defines us. I'm sure you have heard this here, that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, but spiritual beings having a human experience. I think many of us can agree with that. And now I think it important to note at this point here that no matter what our faith or philosophy or theology, free from scriptural literalism, we are able to explore these ideas in ancient texts and stories in order that our knowledge and creativity and imagination may be expanded and enhanced and sparked in all kinds of ways. So I hope that we can hold open an attitude of curiosity about these things, and the language of the Hebrew Bible doesn't get our knickers in a twist, because it's bad when our knickers are in a twist. We can't focus on other things. As some of you may recall in the Hebrew Bible story of the burning bush, Moses, speaking to the bush, more than the bush, but speaking to the bush, has the nerve to ask the name of his God. And the Most High answers, "I am who I am." When written down, the name of the holy given to Moses is recorded as YHWH or YHVH, which is called the sacred tetragrammaton, meaning the sacred four letters. And as you may also know, the original Hebrew text included no vowels, unlike those Dutch with all of their freaking vowels in a row. You know, what is it with people and vowels? I don't know. Too many, too few. Anyway, the sacred tetragrammaton, the YHVH, YHWH, is considered literally unspeakable. Any attempt to speak the tetragrammaton would be fruitless, or some might say in vain. Now, the unspeakability of the tetragrammaton has long been recognized. But there are some religious thinkers who believe that this was intentional, that the holy cannot be named, that whatever it is cannot be put into words, it cannot be spoken. Many are convinced that the correct pronunciation is not a word, not a name, but the very sound of our inhalation and exhalation. Scholars have noted that the letters YH, VH, YH, WH represent breathing sounds. They're calling us now. That these breathing sounds are aspirated consonants that in the Hebrew alphabet would be transliterated as yod, rhymes with road, which we transliterate as Y, hey, which rhymes with say, which we transliterate as H, va, as in lava, which we transliterate as V or W, and hey again, rhyming with say, transliterated as H. So breathing through your mouth, you might try this with me. You exhale a soft sounding yod. And a soft hey to inhale. And a gentle exhale of a va. And a soft inhale of a hey. So it's yod with an exhale. One contemporary Christian songwriter, David Gray, has written that for too long there have been those who have insisted the name of God is so holy that we don't dare speak it because of how unworthy we human beings are. But instead, all of us, always, everywhere, waking, sleeping, from the moment we are born until our final exhalation, are speaking the name of the holy as we inhale and exhale. The Most High, the Holy of Holies, is the sound of our breathing.
The air that is my breath is the air that you are breathing.
And the air that is your breath is the air that I am breathing.
The wind rising in my breast from the east, from the west,
From the north, from the south, breathing in, breathing out.
by breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we all are one. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we all are one. The water that is my blood, my sweat, tears from crying,
Is the water that is your blood, your sweat, tears from crying.
and the rising of the tide in our veins and in the ocean wide.
We are in the rising steam, rushing river, running stream.
By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we all are one. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we all are one. The earth is dust, the earth is clay, flowers blossoming and fading.
We are dust and we are clay, we are blossoming and fading.
Every color, every sound, every place is holy ground.
Oh, every living thing, can you hear it laugh? Can you hear it sing?
By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we all are one. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we all are one. The fire in my heart, my soul flame burning,
Is the fire in your heart, your soul flame burning?
we are spirit burning bright, light of day, dark of night.
We are shining like the sun and like the moon, like the Holy One.
By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we all are one. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we all are one.
Oh, you're messing up all your stuff. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. To join now in a time of meditation and prayer, to think about all of the gifts of your life to begin with. We can get to all the sorrowful and stressful things, but let's start with all that there is to give thanks for. I give thanks for this day, for this opportunity to be with all of you. I loved hearing you sing that hymn this morning. We give thanks for this precious day like no other. For good or for ill, this one will never come again. We give thanks for the gift of waking up this morning. I give thanks for the gift of all of the folks who helped to make this morning's service happen. You know, there's quite a huge team of people behind every single one of your worship services. Folks who are here today, others who are not here today, but to help to make things happen. I give thanks for Wendy's involvement and support all the way along, and for Mike, and for Maureen, and Dee Dee, and Peter, and Dan, and Rob, and Susan in the office for printing the order of service, and so many others. There is so much for us to be thankful for in this time together. Many years ago, a member of the congregation I served for so long mentioned a title of a book to me. And the title of the book that she was reading at the time was When Breath Becomes Air. When breath becomes air. When that breath, which is life-giving, ceases to animate and support life. When the name of the holy is no longer on our lips, when breath becomes air, is a powerful and poetic way to capture what happens at the time of death. And with every death I've attended, this is, and what I think I will always imagine I will think about, this is what I am thinking about. That the breath of one of us, the breath that has animated life, has become air. Let us meditate together. Let us breathe deeply together and marvel in that life-giving force that courses through us without our attention almost all of the time. Let us feel the life that courses through us, breathing in and out. The marvel of being animated. Our inhalation extending through our body. In through our nose or mouth, filling our sinuses and chest and pushing down into our abdomen, expanding our rib cage. Let us experience the breath exhaled as coming from the reaches of our fingertips and toes, traveling up through us and out of our lungs and past our lips, through our nose. We feel the yod, the hey, the va, the hey. This day and in the days ahead, may we be aware of our breathing, thankful for the gift of life even when we are having a tough time. May that breath remind us of all that we are and all that we can do. And may the wind that blows over the face of the water blow over us and carry away what we no longer need. May we delight in the breeze, and may we have our inner Evel Knievel activated slightly. Mike. We bring our service together, our time together, to a close with the words of Bob Holmes again, Breathscapes. When the east wind breathes into your soul, and the morning sun warms your face. Pause in the solitude. Sink into the stillness, expanding with every breath, savoring as things settle and clear. Instill clarity, perceive with childlike wonder the breath of dawn, the light dancing in your heart, to heal you, to hold you, and to make you whole. In the coming days, may we feel held by the spirit of life and connected to all living things. So may it be, and amen.